doing well. We're at the end of the month now, so don't forget we've got end of month flows and we've got NFP around the corner as well. We've got the inflation rate from the Eurozone as well. All right, so there's a lot of things to take into account, and maybe the end of month flows, you might see some, some naughtiness going on where they're going to probably try and buy the dip, but we'll have to wait and see. And that's the big fish, I mean, not the small fish, but I think the big fish might be getting involved sometime soon. We'll have to wait and see. We are risk on at the big picture, but it's getting close to being risk off. Every day for the last 4 or 5 days, we've seen a shift away on the 24-hour difference. If we can see a continuation on this, it's going to chop away at your big picture, and then we're going to be net long. So they're currently negative, but if that goes to positive, it tells us that the herd, the dumb money, are buying risk. And if they are, then there has to be someone else to take the other side of that trade. And we know that the Forex market is huge, and especially the retail traders as well. That liquidity is pretty substantial. We're talking like hundreds of millions of dollars. So someone has to take the other side of that trade. So be careful if we go positive, and be careful if we go above the 26.5 on VIX, because that's your yearly pivot. Okay. We had, note where the bubbles are as well. You can see where things are, right? And so minus 3.37. So for every one person buying, there's 3 people shorting. So it's getting quite close to being like equilibrium, where we're going to get to a zero state. And if we go positive, it's going to be risk off at the big picture. Okay. Yields rose. We had some news from Taiwan. They shot a drone, a Chinese drone. And Russia are going to stop gas going into France. So that's quite scary. And so obviously the yields rose, and we had a bit of a risk off scenario. I duplicated that. That's fine. Yeah. That's supposed to be something else. That's the yield curve. Let's quickly do this, I guess. Sorry about this. Edit. Oh, that's kind of annoying. Dashboard. Up. There you go. I'm just going to do this because this bulletin goes out to people. So I need to copy that, and then we can put that into the right bit. There we go. Apologies for that. Let's go back to view mode, viewing. So there's the yield curve inversion, and that's not healthy at all. So that's risk off. And hopefully you understand that. If you don't, let me know, and then I can explain it. So big shift in on oil, so that made it a sell. US 30 is flipped to sell at the big picture and dynamically, so that makes that like a confirmation of the sell. However, things have changed because we're at London Open, and we see a big reversal quite often at the London Open. So UK 100 also shifted. Germany 30 they sold, right? So that's why that's green, and France 40 they've tried to buy. Hence the red colour. Euro pound is making a buy as well. So that was an alternative scenario that I was suggesting that we could look at. It was this particular currency pair. And the dollar just softened ever so slightly yesterday, the previous day. But we have to remember the big picture. Very strong on the big time frames. Pound is the weakest, but we would have seen that on the bubbles. If we come up here. Pound there, so you know why. That gives you a huge heads up about why that's fallen, because of the sentiment, and we see it reflect on the technicals. So there we go. And dollar yen is the strongest, so there's yen weakness and pound weakness. This went out at 7:37. You'll need to sub and get the bulletin tier, and then you can see the trade of the day. The bulletin tier is $10 a month, and you get a trade of the day every day. Okay, so it's something you could probably consider. It's quite cheap. It's not even a coffee. It's ridiculously cheap. If you get a coffee a day, that's going to be substantially more than your trade of the day. And this can make you quite a bit of money as well. And if you join the bulletin tier, then you can learn from us as well, because we post analysis in there as well. And focusing on sentiment, technicals, and fundamentals. So this is where we are. So, this is a snapshot in time. Whether or not what happens, in an hour's time, we don't know for sure. We can't predict the future, but we can see where the moves are going If we know where something's come from, we get a good idea where it's going. All right, so if something's over here, like the dollar CAD, and we shifted, and the next day we shifted, then logically the next day it's going to shift, and it'll be a stop hunt. Grab the stops, come back, do this, grab stops, come back, and it'll just do this forever until we hit our retirement and we're old age. This is going to continue to wipe out retail traders, back and forth, stop losses, both sides. That's how it works. Okay, so you want to keep an eye on the sentiment. There's a buy on S&P. Like I was saying, things will have shifted. So I want to make this video fairly quick because I want to do a 2-minute summary in Discord about the indices. And there's the buy, but whether or not what happens since the making of this bulletin, some things can happen, can't they? It's constantly in flux. There's the buy on the US 30, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not we had a crossover. That's what I'm going to be looking at on my 2-minute video that goes out to the private members. And they sold it, so made a buy. So there's that big move, and then they went long, so it came down, so it sold off. However, they're going long, so we can probably fall. So the 2-minute video I'm going to make is going to be quite interesting. There's gold, and we were a sell for ages, and they sold it, so we came up. Then they went long, so price fell, and it looks like they might potentially short, but they'll probably short it if we break this support. So keep an eye on those lows on the hourly time frame. Today's liquidity targets, largest stop loss cluster is AU, so which is like kind of typical. There's your liquidity target there. And the largest mover was the dollar CAD at 10% shifts. So that's green, green, green. Okay, so there's a match there. And gold is also matching for sell. You see how you want things to align? This is the last day now of the FX SSI promo code. So come to the FX SSI website and then you can use the Quasidb code. And that's the last time that you can use it today at this enormous power. Tomorrow it will be 10% discount. Okay, so grab an annual plan while you can, and or you spend $31 a month on the Pro license, or you can get it for $10 a month on the Pro license, but the Quasidb code. But you have to lock it in today. Okay, and so this is the last time you guys will see this, and then that's it. So I don't have to talk about this anymore, which is good because I talked about it every day in the bulletin the last month. So this will be gone by tomorrow. It's still valid. You still can use the Quasidb code, but it will just be a 10% discount. Okay. So better than yesterday. Yesterday was crazy. It was 10% failure rate, and now we're at 51%. So we're still like at roulette, but it's not a huge payday. 10% yesterday was just wild. I've never seen anything so crazy, and so much that the retail guys really got paid on everything, which is very unusual. 51%. It's not really ideal, and you want it a bit higher. You want it about 70 or 80% probability, and then you've got that logic behind you in that the trap has been placed and they're going to be stuck. When I mean I mean the retail guys. So you could potentially wait for that to get a bit higher. It's up to you. And this is on the MyFX book failure rate tab on the sheet. So if you want to get the spreadsheet, it comes with premium access, and that's $30 a month. And there's our signals, so we're onwards and upwards. It's going well. Do note that we put out a trade of the day. The Euro Aussie was long. It did incredibly well. However, we didn't incorporate that success into the metrics because we didn't really identify the point of entry. It was basically saying this is the trade of the day, buy. And so we need to determine the entry level so we can get a pips count. So I need to work on this. If we're going to focus on the trade of the day more so than the old signals, then we'll have to try and identify a point where we enter. So I'm going to have to be looking at this and have a think about it, I think, and see how we're going to do this. But it resulted in 120 pips, right, which is pretty amazing. Technical check, so we're still quite extreme on the technicals, so isn't much to be said about that. And that's that. I thought that we might have veered away from the strong sell on some of these potentially, but clearly not. And this is based on multiple indicators on a daily time frame. Economic calendar, we've got the inflation rate, And got the inflation rate as well from Italy, the CPI, obviously from Eurozone, we've got GDP and employment change. So it's a busy calendar today, especially the euro, dollar, and CAD. So be careful of those crosses, and we'll have to wait and see what happens to the trade of the day. I'm going to wrap up now because I want to make a quick 2-minute video on the indices. So I think things are going to have shifted a lot. This takes an hour to do this bulletin, and things have changed in an hour, which is, it just tells you how frequent things shift in the FX market and on the indices. So trade safely, always know your exit, and then you should be fine. And remember your position size as well, according to your account size, and don't over leverage and things like that. So thanks for the trial users, you were awesome, and I'll probably send you all a message to say thanks individually. And then that'll be it. That by tomorrow the trial will be over, and then we'll just resume normal activity tomorrow. So have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon.